Hi, today we're going to be making some chocolate sourdough cupcakes for my daughter's birthday. Let me show you how we get it started. First, we're going to start with 1 1/3 cups of soft white wheat berries, and we're going to grind those. Okay, so this recipe is actually from Farmhouse on Boone's blog, and I really like her recipes, so I usually will use hers or tweak them a little bit. So the flour that we ground should give us about 2 cups of flour, and to that I'm going to add my sourdough starter, and I'm going to add oil, and I'm going to add water. We're mixing this up the night before, so I'm going to show you tomorrow how we finish off the cupcakes. So for tonight, we're going to use 1 cup of water. We're going to use 1/2 cup of oil. She calls for coconut oil, but I'm just going to use olive oil. I'm going to use some of Bubbles, which is our sourdough starter, and I'm going to use about 1/2 cup of that. And I mixed this up last night into a smaller jar so that I would already have as much as I needed. So I need about 1/2 cup of that. Okay, and I'm just going to mix that on up. I'll put a link to her recipe down in the description box for you so you can take a look at it or print it out. So I just have a mixture like that, and we're going to turn these into some delicious chocolate cupcakes. And there's a couple secret ingredients, I guess, that I just do a little bit differently than she does. So I'm going to let this sit at room temperature overnight. It can sit up to 24 hours, but I'm going to let it sit overnight, and then I'll show you how we finish them off in the morning. Okay, it's cupcake time. So I'm going to get my mixer out here. I'm going to use my cookie paddle for this one, and then when we make the frosting, I'll use the whisk attachment. So this has been sitting overnight, and now this is what it looks like. You can see all the wonderful air bubbles. The sourdough has done its job, and we're going to use the Christmas spatula, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to put that mixture in our mixer. Just put it all in there. Okay. Set that aside. Okay, so we're going to preheat our oven to 350 degrees, and we're going to bake those for about 15 to 20 minutes. And I'm just going to test them with a toothpick to make sure those come out clean, so I know that they're finished and done baking. Okay, we're going to add 2 cups of sugar. 1, 2. I know that may seem like a lot of sugar, but these are cupcakes, you know. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of salt to balance those flavors. And she calls for some coffee, which I actually don't have any right now. A lot of times when a recipe calls for coffee to make the chocolate richer, I will actually use tea. So the night before, when we mixed it up with the water, I would have just brewed some tea and used that. But I forgot to do that, so we're just not going to do that today. And I'm going to go... Oh, gotta plug it in first. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and mix that up so the sugar and the salt can get combined. Okay, I don't want to overmix it because we're not making bread. Oop. Okay, it seems a little thick right now, but that's okay. We're going to add a cup of whole milk. And I'm going to use our trusty Fairlife milk that does our family well. Pour that in there. And we're going to do 2 eggs. I'm going to wash my hands. Okay, and you're going to use 3/4 cup of cocoa powder. So put that in. Looks like I'm almost out of that. Okay. Had to get some more. And we're going to do about 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. We have our homemade vanilla extract. I'm going to make a video to show you how we make it. It's pretty simple. I will put a link whenever that video is ready to go. So 2 teaspoons of that. Okay. And I'm going to mix that all up. I'm just going to grab my spatula here so I can scrape down the sides. It smells really good and chocolatey. Okay, so there's that. I'm just going to scrape down my sides and get that incorporated. Make sure that the milk gets mixed in with the sourdough starter mixture and nothing gets just stuck on the side because nobody wants just a clump of cocoa powder. Cocoa powder is delicious in recipes, but not by itself. Put that back in there. So the good thing about doing this with the sourdough the night before is it starts to break down all the gluten. It breaks down and makes the cake so much softer than if I were to just freshly mill the wheat and make a cake, which I've done that too. It's really good. Our family likes it. We don't have any gluten issues, but we do really like the taste and texture that the sourdough gives us. And this is the sourdough after I fed him last night. You can see all those amazing bubbles. That's what gives us our rise. And I forgot to let you know, last night when you're feeding your sourdough, you want to go ahead and get a stick of butter and set it out for your frosting so that that will be room temperature. Okay, and now that that is incorporated, I am going to add 2 teaspoons of baking soda. And baking soda helps rise when it reacts to an acid. The acid in this case is going to be our sourdough starter. So 2 teaspoons of baking soda in there. And I want to make sure that gets mixed in really well because nobody wants a clump of baking soda either. Let me mix that all up. Okay, while that mixes up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cupcake pan and I'm going to just put some rice in the bottom here. And what that does is it's just a little trick I found, and I found it works really well with cupcakes and muffins. And what it does is, and anytime you bake cupcakes or muffins, if you ever get like a greasy bottom that goes through your paper liners, this will prevent that from happening. So I'm just going to put just a little bit in the bottom of each compartment here. Whatever dry rice you have on hand will be fine. Okay, that looks good. Almost has like a chocolate pudding consistency. So now I'm going to take my just paper liners and I'm going to line my cupcake pan or muffin tin, whatever you want to call it, with that. Trying to do it up here so you can see me better. And this is going to make more than one sheet of cupcakes. So in my oven, I will have to do multiple rounds to get them all done, because I have a smaller oven. Okay, so now that that's lined, I'm just going to take my paddle out and set it in the sink because I'm done with this one. And I will use the other whisk attachment for my frosting. Okay, I'm just going to set my mixer to the side here so I can bring the muffin tin over. There's already a reaction going on. You can see the bubbles are starting. It's starting to kind of rise in my bowl here. That's the sourdough acid mixing with the baking soda. So I'm just going to make sure there's nothing stuck to the bottom. And I'm going to use my 1/4 cup measuring cup. And that's what I'm going to use to fill my cupcakes. Okay, so my oven's already preheated, and we're going to start with just the 15 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and put the first round in. And we'll let those go. I'll check them in the 15 minutes and set this aside because I have a ton more batter to use to fill the rest of the cupcakes. And then I'm going to go ahead and get started on the frosting so that we can start that. Okay, to get the frosting started, I'm going to use my second bowl and pull my mixer back over here and plug it in. Okay, and I'm going to use the whisk attachment. Stick that in there. Okay, so the first ingredient we're going to use is cream cheese, and you're going to want about 8 ounces. I have my homemade cream cheese here. If you want to see how to make that, I'll put a link here, and I'll put a link in the description. I have where you can make cream cheese and yogurt at the same time in your Instant Pot. So if you want to check that recipe out, I will put that in the description below and maybe put a link up here somewhere. So that's the first ingredient we're going to use. This is the texture of the homemade cream cheese. Okay, so if you're using like just a block of cream cheese, you're going to want that to come to room temperature. The homemade cream cheese is a little bit softer, so I only had it sitting on the counter for a little bit, but you'll want to pull that out of the counter and let it soften if you're using just a block of cream cheese. So I'm going to put a 1/2 cup of softened butter. This is the butter that I pulled out, just a stick of butter. And I pulled that out last night. And I'm going to just kind of whisk those two together. Okay, I'm going to just let those continue to whisk together, and they're going to get a little bit fluffy before I add anything else. So the recipe calls to add salt to the mixture, but I've already used salted butter, and I salt my cream cheese when I make it, so I'm not going to add any extra. But if you're using unsalted butter and regular cream cheese, you're going to want to add about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt to this. So the first thing I'm going to put in is about 2 teaspoons of the vanilla, the homemade vanilla again. You can use any vanilla extract that you have. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in here. Okay, that's all incorporated nicely. And now it calls for 4 cups of powdered sugar. I'm just going to kind of look at the consistency of that. As I add it, I may need more, I may need less. But I'm just going to go ahead and start putting that in. And when you mix the powdered sugar in, you want to start with a really slow speed. Otherwise, you will end up with powdered sugar all over. Ask me how I know. I went ahead and got a whole bag of powdered sugar so that I wouldn't be short, because I've had that happen to me before where I make a recipe, I think I have plenty of powdered sugar, and it seems to always need more and more and more. So I just got a whole bag. All right, so my first cup is gonna go in, and I'm just gonna put that down and slowly start to incorporate that. These have about 3 minutes left on them for the first round. Then those are going to start to cool down in the pan for about 10 minutes. Then I'll take them out and I'll put them on. I have a small wire rack and I'll put them on there, and then I can load my next ones into the oven. Okay, this is good for another cup. Number 2. Let that go slowly again. Okay, and I'm going to put the third cup in. Let that go a little bit. I'm going to just grab a toothpick so I can check these when they're ready. Set that to the side so I have it ready. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and add like 3/4 of a cup before I add the whole 4 cups. I imagine I'll probably need them all just because my cream cheese is usually thinner than store-bought cream cheese. But we'll see. I don't want it to be too sweet. I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of that, so it is going to end up being the 4 cups, maybe more. I'm just eyeballing this. I'm going to set this to the side. Let that go on there. Once it starts to firm up, then I will start whisking it on a higher speed. Okay, those are done. Well, they may not be done. I'll have to check them. Grab my toothpick. Just gonna pull those out. Okay. I'm gonna give them about 2 more minutes. I'll show you. I don't want to over bake them, but if you can see, a lot of the chocolate came off as I stuck them in. So I'm just going to give them 2 more minutes, which will actually end up being about 17.5 to 18 minutes. Your oven may be different. I'm going to go ahead and scrape the sides, and my Christmas spatula is dirty, so I have to use a different one. Okay, I'll use this one. This one's just not as exciting to use. It's pretty plain, but it's functional. Okay, this still looks pretty thin, so I may add a little bit more in here, but let me just scrape the sides and make sure that none is stuck to the bottom before I add anything else, because sometimes that can happen. Not very often, but it can. But I'm going to show you, this is still a little bit on the runny side. So I think I'm going to go ahead and add, I don't know, about a 1/2 cup more of the powdered sugar. Now, I didn't measure the first ones perfectly, so it's a good chance that I never even got full cups in there. Okay, I'm going to just do about a 1/2 cup. Do that on low again. I always make a mess with powdered sugar. I'm going to get a clean toothpick, if it'll come out for me. Not free. because if we overbake these, they'll be really dense and tough. So I want them to be like the perfect doneness. Hopefully we can achieve that today. Okay. Perfect. Okay, there is no chocolate pieces. Okay, there we go. There's a little brown, but there's no chocolate chunks or pieces coming out like the last time it was. All right. I'm going to go ahead and take these out. And this is what we have. They have nice flat tops for frosting them. I'm going to let those just cool for about 10 minutes. And then I will go ahead and put the next round in. Okay, I have to make a note on the clock so I know. I tend to forget times. Sometimes I will use my electronic device. I don't want to say her name, otherwise she'll activate to do my timing when I'm cooking. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on a medium speed so it can whip up. So, okay, it's been about 10 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and get my little wire rack that I use. Sorry. Get my little wire rack that I use. And I'm just going to set it back here. I'm going to pull those out and just make sure I get all the rice off of there. But I wanted to show you the bottoms of these, how they're dry and they are not oily or greasy at all. I'm just going to go ahead and pull those out and wipe off the rice so that I can just go ahead and reuse that for the next one. Okay, so that's my first 12, and I'm going to go ahead and use my little liners and line them for the second round. Okay, it's cool enough. Okay, those are lined. The last time I made this recipe, I ended up dropping an entire pan of cupcakes on the floor. I might have a picture of that. If I do, if I can find the picture, I'll post it. I'm going to go ahead and fill these with another 1/4 cup. I'm going to preheat my oven to the 18 minutes so that those are ready to go. And I'm going to go ahead and let this continue whipping. I turned it off so that it wasn't too loud. So I'm going to fill those, let this whip, and then put my second round in. Okay, so I'm having a little bit of trouble with the frosting getting super firm. Turn that off. So it's still a little bit runny. So what I'm going to do is, I already put it in the fridge for a little bit to see if that would help firm it up. It helped a little. Another trick is you can use a little bit of cornstarch, up to a 1/2 cup, but I don't really like to use that much. It's not supposed to alter the flavor, but you almost can taste the powder if you use that much. So I may go ahead and put in a heavy tablespoon of cornstarch in there to see if I can thicken that up. When you use the homemade cream cheese, this can be an issue because it is a little bit more liquidy, and the powdered sugar then will kind of dissolve into the liquid, and if I keep adding more powdered sugar, it's just going to be so sweet. So I don't want to do that. Move this back over here. Ooh. Okay. The little suction cups on the bottom are fantastic when I need them, but sometimes when I want to slide it around. Okay, so I'm going to take my cornstarch, gonna add a heavy tablespoon. I'm just gonna sprinkle that in, and I'm gonna let that go just on low so it doesn't go flying out everywhere. Hopefully that'll work. Okay, so these are done. Second round. I have at least one more, but those are done. So I'm going to go ahead and let those sit in the pan for 10 minutes, and then I will put those on the cooling rack. Hopefully those ones that are on the cooling rack, those ones that are on the cooling rack now will be cool enough to put them on a plate by then. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and put the cooled cupcakes on the plate here. Okay, and then I'm going to take these and I'm going to put them on the cooling rack. Oop, forgot to check for, okay, good. You can see the rice in the bottom there. Just want to make sure none of that comes out. Just leave it in the pan so I can do the next round. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and line those, and this is a non-stick pan, but I like to use the liners. I really don't like having to clean out each one of these individual compartments. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start filling in the third batch, and I'm going to go ahead and bake those off. I'm just going to use the rest of this batter because I don't want to put a whole nother load in just for possibly 1 or 2 more cupcakes. However, my family might think differently. And this one looks a little low. Alright, so these are going to go in. This is the third batch. Okay, I've got this out of the fridge. If this doesn't firm up, I'm going to have to think of a plan B. Because it's still looking pretty liquidy. I don't know what I did. The only thing I can think of is normally when I make the cream cheese at home, I let it strain for 24 to 48 hours so that it's really thick. This time I made it last night, so it only strained for probably 8 or 10 hours. So I'm wondering if there was just way too much liquid in it still. I should have made it a day prior so that it would be firmer in texture. So my mistake on that one. If this doesn't work out, we will just go ahead and make a plain buttercream, and then I'll just put some of this mixture into that buttercream so it's not all of a waste, and it will help flavor it. So I'll use it instead of like what you would use the milk for. So let's go check on that. Guys, do you see how liquidy this is? This is what I'm talking about. I think I don't want to add any more cornstarch or sugar to this. That's just way too runny. Earlier, when I was a little concerned this wasn't going to work out, I went ahead and pulled out 2 sticks of butter so that it could start coming to room temperature. I know this seems like a lot of waste of ingredients, and I feel that way too, but I wanted to show you guys real. I'm not a professional. I'm just showing you how I do it, and sometimes this stuff happens. All right, let's check those. Looks pretty good. Gonna go ahead and pull them out. Okay, so we're going to do this without burning myself. Alright. Alright, we'll let those sit for 10 minutes and then we will do the whole rotation thing again. Those will go on there and these will go on there and then they'll be ready for frosting. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and take this and pour it out. Yeah, that's way too runny. And I need to clean out this bowl so that I can go ahead and start making the regular buttercream. Okay, so I got that cleaned out and we're gonna go ahead and start the butter. I know a lot of other channels that probably would have just scrapped that video and just started a new one from scratch. 1, I want to be real with you guys and honest. 2, I don't have any more cream cheese that I have that's homemade, so I can't really do that. So I've got to save this, what I have sitting in the bowl here that we used earlier, or that we made earlier. And I'm glad I ended up buying that whole bag of powdered sugar and didn't use it for anything else before today. So let me get the butter. Okay, so I'm going to start with the softened butter. And I'm going to go ahead and put those in, and so the link that I'm putting below for the recipe has the recipe for the cream cheese frosting. The last 2 times I made it, it turned out great. So I don't know, it's extremely humid where we're at, and it's pretty hot where we're at, so that could be affecting it also. The last time I made it was in spring, and it was dry. Don't know if that has something to do with it. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and... what I was saying is I will go ahead and just type up the recipe for the quick buttercream, just so you know how to do that. But how I'm going to do it is a little different. I'm going to use what we made earlier for the vanilla and the cream cheese flavor. So that will be my flavoring rather than putting it all new in again. So let me get the butter started. Okay, so while that whips, I probably will need to scrape it down a couple times also. I forgot to wash my spatula that we used earlier. Alright, so this is because it wasn't all the way to room temperature, so I'm just going to take it and just kind of bang it against the pan. It'll warm up as we use it. Okay, put that back in there. And it's on my sides here, so I'm going to go ahead and scrape it down. Normally I would have pulled the butter out the night before. At this point it's probably only been out for 40 minutes, but I had it sitting near my oven and the warmed up thing so that it would heat up faster. Alright. That down again. We want to whip that until it becomes light and fluffy, and then you can start putting in the sugar, powdered sugar, and then I will go ahead and put in the flavorings to just kind of thin it down. Put it back. This mixer, it has a little, it goes from 1 to 4, but it has a little, what the park feature. What that does is basically parks the mixer so that the beater will come to the back so that when I lift it up, it won't hit the sides of the bowl. Usually I remember to use it, sometimes I forget to use it. It's not light and fluffy yet, but it's definitely getting there. While that's working, I'm going to go grab the powdered sugar. This is where it's at, and it is looking much better. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and arc it. I'm going to go ahead and scrape it down. And as it starts to whip, you'll notice it get lighter in color as well. Alright, and you can see how it's all kind of whipped in there. I'm going to go ahead and start putting in the powdered sugar, same as the last time. You're just going to put in about a cup at a time and put it on low to help it incorporate in. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and pour in just a little bit of this mixture that we have here, we made earlier, together. Just going to maybe do, let me eyeball it here. I think that was 4 tablespoons. I'm going to set this to the side because I may add more. Okay. Okay, I can see I want to add more. So I think I'm going to be happier with the results of this than I was last time. I was getting pretty discouraged. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put 4 more tablespoons of this in. And like I said, this is kind of taking the place of a normal buttercream if you would normally use milk too thin when you make it. But it's also adding in my vanilla and cream cheese flavor too. So who knows, this may be the best frosting that I've ever made. Where it's at, and it is looking much better. I'm going to give it a taste to see if it needs more sugar because generally to make buttercream I end up using 3 to 4 cups of sugar with this amount. So if I need more sugar, I'll probably need more of the cream cheese mixture that we made that's liquidy. But look at that. Much better. Just gonna taste that. Okay, that's really good. I think I'm gonna go ahead, because I want more of the cream cheese flavor, I think I'm gonna go ahead and put in about a half a cup of powdered sugar. Set that to the side there. And then I think I'm gonna go ahead and put in some more of our mixture. So I may get to use more than I thought we would. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see if that'll do it. Which is making me happy because then I have less wasted ingredients. That increased my volume. I'm going to put more. I think I'm just going to go ahead and put the rest of this. So I'll probably end up putting about 4 more tablespoons. Kind of excited. This is something new. Now it's a lot of work to go through making frostings because you basically had to make frosting twice. But this might be a new thing. And we made it together. Alright. Okay, I want you to see the texture that we're getting now finally. Yeah, that's looking really good. And it's about time for me to move these over to the plate and then these onto the cooling rack. Okay, so those are done, and let me just show you the frosting. It's going to hold nicely on top of our cupcakes. So I'm very happy with that one. So after these are all cool, then I'm going to go ahead and ice them, and I'll show you how I do that. Okay, so now it's time to ice the cupcakes with the frosting. I'm going to try the little Ziploc bag trip that everybody does because I don't have a piping bag. So I'm just going to, actually I'm going to fill it first, I think. Going to use the frosting that we made earlier. Okay, and I'm going to just kind of push out the air and zip that closed. It's not going to be a clean process. And I'm going to tape and I'm going to snip off the end. Let's see. Maybe about that much. We'll see. We'll see if that's a good amount. And I'm just going to go ahead and apply the frosting. Okay, so as you can see, we did run out of frosting, but that's okay. There's actually a lot of people that don't like frosting, believe it or not, in my family. So this will work out perfect. Thank you so much for hanging out with me in my kitchen today here in the RV, and I hope that you found something that you liked here. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button for me. You could also comment if you would like to try something like this or have any other great recipe ideas, and give me a subscribe if you'd like to see what content I'm putting out next. Thank you so much for joining us in our adventure in Grains in Small Places. Goodbye.